He was hiking with his wife, but they soon got separated. He wandered off and quickly realized he was very lost. Thankfully, he found someone who looked like they worked there. As they flew closer, they realized it was an Aztec death god. They later posted this online. Many believe the god was trying to warn them of danger. 3 days later, the news broke. The plane that had crashed in Mexico had been carrying 69 passengers. This person was playing a video game when something incredible happened. They were exploring the woods in the game. When they came across a hidden cabin, they opened the door and entered inside. Suddenly, the screen flashed. They quickly realized they weren't alone. A creepy doll had appeared behind them. It was facing forward, but its head was spinning around at 360 degrees. The player quickly ran away. But this is not normal. This is not an effect that the game is supposed to have. Was this a glitch? Or is someone messing with them? It was heading to Los Angeles, but it never made it. All 69 people on board had passed away. This woman went exploring and came across a very spooky cave. She decided to go inside. She walked further and further in. She saw something unbelievable. The walls of the cave had strange faces carved into them. These are known as the Whomping Willows. But what are they? Nobody knows for sure. Some believe they're ancient fertility symbols. Others say they're the face of a deity. One legend says that the face will bring bad luck upon anyone who carves one. I think this woman should have listened to that legend. After carving one of these faces, she and her friends began experiencing bad luck. Her dog died, she got malaria, and her friend even went blind. Maybe stay away from these faces in the future. Maybe the god was trying to warn them, or maybe it was just a scary coincidence. And as they looked around, they noticed a mysterious figure standing on a rock. Many said this was an extremely rare Bigfoot sighting. Bigfoot is said to be a large, hairy, human-like creature that lives in the forests of North America. Many say it has huge feet and a very loud roar. I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it definitely does not look human. Maybe Bigfoot really does exist. This person was wearing a ranger uniform and seemed very nice. If you want to see my shorts, check out more content. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you haven't already, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel. It started growling, barking, and showing its teeth. This person tried calling their dog back, but it wouldn't come. These people were staying in a cabin in the woods. One morning they went outside and noticed something unbelievable. A portal had appeared in the forest behind their cabin. This looks like something from a horror movie. The ground had literally split open and a swirling vortex appeared. Many wonder if portals are actually possible. Stephen Hawking once said, "It is possible for a space station to be constructed which would enable us to peer into another universe." Maybe this is what's happening here. Perhaps this couple accidentally opened up a portal to another dimension. What do you think's going on here? Kept lunging at the bushes as if attacking something invisible. Eventually the dog got tired and came back. This person couldn't believe what they had seen. They posted online asking for help. One person replied, "My grandmother's chocolate lab does the same thing. It drives me nuts. She says it's because the dog sees or smells something that has passed over from the other side. Many believe this dog can see ghosts. Ghosts that only dogs can see aren't that uncommon. If you search online, you'll find many stories of dogs acting like this. Is this dog able to see spirits, or was there really a ghost in the bushes? He gave them water and even walked with them for a while, but then they stopped." The woman asked if she could take a photo with him because she wanted to show the real rangers what he was wearing so they could catch whoever was impersonating them. She said that these uniforms were definitely not from around here because the Park Service doesn't wear them anymore. She took a photo, thanked him again for the help, and carried on. From people dying in the forest to a ghost saving a life, here are 5 scary things caught on camera. They were shocked. They told her that uniform style had been discontinued in 1974. Then one of them pulled up a missing poster. This was from 1975. It was the same man. The ranger who had helped her was officially dead 48 years ago. It seems like this man wasn't just an imposter. He was an actual ghost. He probably died in the woods, and now he helps people get out. How terrifying is that? If you want to see more spooky stories, check out more content. First, we have to look at this man. This is Steve. When she finally made it out, she showed the photo to the other rangers. Moving on, let's look at this hotel. In the summer of 2016, two men stayed in this hotel. They set up their GoPro camera to capture any movement during the night. They thought it would be funny to scare each other. At one point, one of them starts screaming and shouting. They swear at each other and shout about leaving. Then suddenly something hits the bed. Most would assume it's just the wind or something like that, but the window was shut. Then something strange happened. The blanket was pulled off the bed, and then bam, the light was turned on. What was that? Some say it was the ghost of a former guest haunting the hotel. Now let's look at this plane. These people were flying over Mexico when they saw something unbelievable. They spotted a face in the clouds. Next, we have to look at this dog. This person was walking their dog in the woods when they noticed something shocking. Their dog started running towards some bushes. Moving on, let's look at this cabin. Next, we have to look at this video game. Moving on, let's look at this cave. Finally, we have to look at this picture. In 2013, someone posted this picture online. They had been hiking in Yosemite National Park, but now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below. Which of these was the scariest? The boy with no eyes. The boy with no eyes. It was a day like any other in Zion National Park. Families picnicked under the shade of cottonwood trees. Hikers recounted tales at the base of the Great White Throne, and tourists marveled at the emerald pools nestled amidst the red rocks. The park throbbed with summer energy, each visitor eager to soak in the sun-drenched canyons. Mike leaned back against a sturdy rock, his gaze drifting to the star-dusted sky. Jess snuggled closer to him, resting her head on his shoulder. He tried to make out more details, searching for any indication of distress on the boy's face, or for any sign of familiarity amongst the other campers. Mike, ever the pragmatist, scanned the area to see if the boy was alone. He didn't spot anyone else, but the concern etched on Jess's face mirrored his own. Finally, when the boy was close enough, Jess broke the silence. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Then he looked at them expectantly, tilting his head slightly. "Did he ask for permission to stay?" he hissed to Jess, his eyes wide with alarm. Jess shook her head, equally perplexed and frightened. She had no idea what to do. She looked at the boy, then back at Mike, trying to piece together the situation. This strange behavior left Mike and Jess feeling deeply unsettled. "Hey there, little guy," she said softly, trying to project kindness and openness. Do you live around here?" she asked, hoping to understand the boy's presence better. "Do you know where your parents are?" The ranger's eyes, which had been twinkling with warmth, turned cold and severe upon seeing the boy. His gaze, sharp and penetrating, swept over the stranger, taking in every detail. The boy shook his head slowly, his expression betraying nothing. Startled by the question, Jess realized she had been holding her breath. "Then he will," the ranger whispered, his eyes never leaving the boy. They didn't understand what the ranger meant, but his words held an undeniable finality that chilled them to the bone. Grabbing their things, they began packing their tent, their movements frantic and clumsy in the firelight. "Yes," she whispered, confused by the ranger's intense demeanor. A chilling reminder that sometimes the most breathtaking landscapes can conceal the most haunting mysteries. A profound chill settled over her, and she knew with a certainty that defied logic that something ancient and malevolent had been stirred within the depths of Zion National Park. The fire sputtered, sending sparks spiraling into the inky sky, each spark a tiny ember of the mystery that had unfolded there. The ranger, his face creased with worry, returned to the deserted campsite. Kneeling beside the fire, he poked at the embers, his eyes distant and troubled. He too was haunted by the enigma of the night, the unsettling encounter with the boy whose eyes held the secrets of the ancient earth. He took a step closer, and Jess felt a sudden chill despite the warmth of the night. Mike, unable to contain himself any longer, stood up and shouted, "What do you want?" The boy tilted his head again, this time to the side, and stared at them silently for a moment. He just stood there, his eyes boring into them, a faint smile playing on his lips. The ranger stood firm, his presence a barrier between the couple and the boy. The man wore a ranger's uniform, his presence instantly commanding respect and authority. The urgency of their flight making neatness a luxury they couldn't afford. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, his voice echoing in the stillness. Then he answered, his voice barely audible. To stay here? Can I stay here? He asked, his voice echoing in the sudden quiet. Can I help you? Her voice echoed in the sudden quiet that had fallen around them. The boy stopped a few steps away from them, his eyes never leaving theirs. It was a void, a dark, bottomless pit that stared back at them, devoid of any life or light. The sight sent a shiver down their spines, and Jess felt a scream building in her throat. For a moment, the only sound was the crackling of the fire.
Ow.
Then the boy opened his mouth and spoke in a voice as thin and reedy as the wind through the canyon. His demeanor shifted, his face losing some of its color. In a hushed voice, he said, "We can't let you stay here." The boy remained silent, his gaze unwavering. "Hi, can I have some food?" he asked. But the boy kept walking towards them, his eyes fixed on their campfire. The way he'd asked was so polite, so matter-of-fact. It was jarring. She glanced at Mike and saw a similar look of surprise on his face. The casualness of the boy's request stood in stark contrast to the unsettling aura he exuded. "Of course," Jess said, quickly recovering. "Just wait a moment," she added, rummaging through their camping supplies. She found some granola bars and a bunch of fruit and offered them to the boy. He took them without a word, his eyes never flickering away from theirs. Each step brought him closer, inching him further out of the shadows and into the pool of firelight. And with each step, Mike and Jess could see more clearly the striking peculiarity of the situation. As the minutes ticked by, punctuated by the popping of the campfire, they shared stories and laughter, creating a bubble of contentment amidst the vast wilderness. Amongst these visitors were Jess and Mike, a young couple from Salt Lake City. Wandering eyes scanned the shadows cast by the surrounding trees. They were dirty, yes, but there was something else about them, something that made her skin crawl. His fingers seemed too long, too thin, like the limbs of a spider. And as she watched, she saw the boy pause in his eating, and for a split second, she thought she saw something like a glint on his fingertips. Then he brought the food back to his mouth and swallowed it, hiding whatever it was from view. At first, it was just a fleeting impression, a sense of movement in their peripheral vision. But as she turned her head, she saw a small figure emerging from the darkness. It was a boy, no older than 10, his thin frame silhouetted against the fading light. "Hey, look, Mike, is that kid lost?" she whispered, nudging her partner to get his attention. Together, they watched as the boy continued to approach, moving with a strange slowness that made it hard to gauge his intentions. His clothes were tattered and dusty, his face streaked with dirt. But what truly caught their attention was the expression on his face. There was something unsettlingly vacant about it, as if the boy was devoid of any emotions. Their small tent was pitched in a secluded area away from the bustle of the main campground. After a day of exploring the nearby canyon-overlooked trail, they decided to spend the evening at their campsite, relishing in the solitude that surrounded them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the vibrant hues of the canyon walls softened into cool purples and deep blues. The air, still warm from the day's heat, hummed with the soft sounds of nature. Crickets chirped rhythmically. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the distant sound of a summer stream flowed like a soothing melody. The couple stoked their campfire, the crackling of burning logs mingling with the quiet symphony of the night. It was during one of these quiet moments that Jess noticed something unusual. Mike sat up straighter, his earlier relaxation forgotten. As the boy drew nearer, Mike and Jess exchanged a worried glance. His question startled Jess. As the boy ate, Jess couldn't help but notice his hands. After finishing the snacks, the boy stood up and brushed imaginary crumbs off his clothes. She cleared her throat, attempting to break the tension. Mike shot up from his seat, panic dawning on his face. The boy smiled, and it was then that Mike and Jess saw the emptiness where his eyes should have been. As if sensing her reaction, the boy stepped back, his smile widening. In that moment, Jess saw a change in Mike. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. A tall, broad-shouldered man with a weathered face and kind eyes approached them. "He won't leave," Mike blurted out, gesturing towards the boy with no eyes. "Did he ask for permission to stay?" The ranger asked Jess, his voice grave. A grim understanding crossed the ranger's face. He stepped forward, placing himself between the boy and the couple. A wave of panic washed over Jess and Mike. As they worked, Jess couldn't help but steal glances at the boy. He hadn't moved, hadn't even blinked. Within minutes, their tent was half dismantled, the sleeping bags tossed haphazardly aside. As they drove away, The last thing Jess saw was the boy standing by the campfire, his head tilted slightly, his eyes reflecting the starlight. That night, as the moon cast its silver glow over the deserted campsite, the boy with no eyes walked into the shadows. And so, the story of the boy with no eyes became a hushed whisper amongst the tourists who reveled in Zion's natural beauty. What was that? A terrifying experience in the woods. Welcome back. I'm here with another scary story about a man who almost lost his life because of a creepy creature that lives in the woods. If you like scary stories, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, so that you do not miss any new videos. Also, a special thanks to our supporters. You guys help us create more content, so thank you very much. Now let's begin. In the heart of Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains lies a dense and shadowy expanse that has earned its reputation as one of America's most haunting wilderness areas. This desolate region, nestled in the highest peaks of the Appalachian Mountains, stretches for over 800 square miles, encompassing an ancient and untamed wilderness that has become the stuff of local legends. The silence was profound and heavy, amplifying every creak and whisper of the wind, making it seem like the forest itself was holding its breath. They pushed on, their senses on high alert, eager to spot the first glimpses of their prey. As it drew closer, Steve could make out the contours of its body, the sinewy muscles rippling beneath its skin. Its gait was strange, almost unnatural, like that of a predator stalking its prey. The dense foliage that had seemed inviting during daylight now loomed over them, forming a suffocating canopy that blocked out the last rays of sunlight. With each crackling log, they shared stories of the beast they had encountered, its unnatural movements and otherworldly appearance still vivid in their minds. The creature's piercing stare burned into their memories, a haunting reminder of the terror they had faced. He tried to rationalize what he had seen, but the image of the creature kept intruding into his thoughts. Armed with a camera, determined to capture any sign of the creature, he ventured back into the woods. A series of tracks imprinted in the soft earth, tracks that defied any earthly explanation. These weren't the prints of a deer or any known animal. Panic surged through Steve. He had come seeking answers, but instead found himself face to face with his deepest fears. As the images slowly emerged, he saw not the creature, but his own reflection staring back at him from the lens. Hope flickered, then died. The creature had evaded capture once again, leaving behind only its haunting legend. Steve, his faith in logic and reason shaken, retreated into the confines of his home. The incident left an indelible mark on his psyche, transforming his perception of the world and his place within it. He realized that the boundaries between the real and the surreal are often blurred, and some experiences defy the limitations of human comprehension. The creature continued to elude him, its presence a constant specter haunting the edges of his vision. He knew that their paths would cross again, drawn back to the woods by an invisible force. Seeking closure, or perhaps a deeper understanding of the horror that had become such an integral part of his life, the Smoky Mountains stood as a testament to the enduring mysteries of nature, a place where shadows dance and ancient secrets linger. Steve's journey had taken him to the very heart of these mysteries, and he knew that he would never be the same again. The encounter left him shaken, grappling with the realization that some mysteries are best left unsolved. They were unlike anything he had ever seen, each step bearing the mark of something heavy and misshapen. They led him further into the heart of the woods, deeper into the realm of the unknown. It was a solo mission, one he undertook alone, pushing aside the worried glances and hushed warnings of his friends and family. Then, as if responding to his call, the creature emerged from the shadows. It was the same creature from his previous encounter, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, its body a grotesque parody of a human form. With a start, Steve raised his camera, hoping to capture the creature's image. The flash from the camera startled the creature, causing it to pause in its tracks. For a fleeting moment, the forest held its breath, the fate of both Steve and the creature hanging in the balance. The moment he stepped into the forest, the oppressive feeling of dread washed over him again, as if the woods themselves were wary of his intrusion. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the beast continued to haunt him, driving a wedge between him and his friends. They had shared a harrowing experience, yet neither understood nor could fully comprehend what they had witnessed together. The night wore on, and with it, their fears grew. The darkness deepened, enveloping them in an oppressive blanket that stifled their breaths. Every snapping twig, every rustle in the underbrush sent a jolt of fear through their bodies. Sleep was a distant thought, replaced by a growing dread. They sat huddled around the fire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames, their eyes wide and vigilant. The playful rustlings of the wind now sounded like whispers of warning, and the distant hoot of an owl sent shivers down their spines. They stumbled upon their camp, relief washing over them as they recognized the familiar surroundings. Yet a sense of unease lingered. They had come seeking adventure, but found something far more sinister lurking in the depths of the Smoky Mountains. Steve, his adrenaline surging, knew he had to act swiftly. With a deep breath, he raised his rifle, his finger tightening on the trigger. They didn't speak much on the way home. The haunting image of the creature, its unearthly gaze burned into their retinas, making every mile feel like an eternity. Finally, as they neared their destination, the woods fell away, giving way to the familiar sights and sounds of civilization. The encounter remained etched in their minds, stark reminder of the horrors that might lurk just beyond the edge of human perception. In that split second, the creature lifted its head, revealing a face that froze the blood in Steve's veins. It wasn't the muzzle of a deer that he was staring down, but the snarling visage of something primal, something that should have belonged only in the darkest corners of his nightmares. The Smokies are renowned for their foggy atmosphere and mystical allure. There, amidst the tapestry of brown and green, he saw it, dark shape-shifting, blending seamlessly with the shadows cast by the thick canopy above. The gunshot echoed through the silent woods, shattering the tranquility of the forest. The creature, however, didn't fall. With a guttural screech that seemed to tear at the very fabric of the woods, it vanished into the thicket. Steve, his heart pounding against his ribs, lowered his rifle, his hand shaking. He had expected to hit his prey, to bring it down with the force of his shot. But this was no ordinary animal. It seemed to have melted away into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but the lingering scent of musk and decay. It was too large to be a deer, yet it moved with an uncanny grace that set it apart from any animal Steve had encountered before. His heart quickened, a mix of excitement and apprehension rising within him. Could this be the elusive beast that had become the stuff of Smoky Mountain legends? Or was it something more sinister lurking just beyond their perception? Elkmont stands out as a particularly atmospheric and eerie section of this already enigmatic park. Elk means antlered ones, referring to the elk, once abundant in the valley and symbolizing the mystical creatures that roamed these woods according to local folklore. Lost amongst the towering spruce fir forests, the secluded cabins, some dating back to the early 20th century, are nestled in this shadowed landscape, whispering tales of the past, while serving as a stark reminder of the area's former human habitation. However, the true nature of Almont remains shrouded in mystery, and many believe it is here where the veil between the natural and supernatural is at its thinnest. Among those who have ventured into this shadowed realm, tales of unexplained phenomena and unsettling encounters have spread like wildfire. And it's these stories that have earned the Smoky Mountains name as a paranormal hotspot, a vast tract of wilderness within the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the most visited national park in the U.S., shrouded in mist and legend. It was against this backdrop of dense woodland and brooding mist that Steve decided to venture into the Smoky Mountains with his two friends, seeking a thrilling deer hunt during the long weekend. What began as an exciting outdoor adventure soon took a terrifying turn, leading to a horrifying discovery that would change their lives forever. As they journeyed deeper into the woods, an unnerving hush fell over the group, broken only by the crunch of fallen leaves under their boots. Hours into their hunt, Steve's eyes, sharp and unwavering, caught a movement in the periphery. The creature seemed to glide effortlessly through the undergrowth, its presence both fascinating and terrifying. Panic surged through Steve, and he pulled the trigger. As darkness began to creep in, turning the familiar woods into a menacing labyrinth, they decided to retreat, their hunt abandoned. Their campfire, usually a source of warmth and camaraderie, now seemed like a feeble defense against the encroaching darkness. As dawn broke, casting the first pale light over the mountains, they packed up their belongings, their movements stiff and silent. Now, in the safety of his own home, Steve couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. Then came the turning point. Steve, driven by an insatiable need to understand what he had seen, decided to return to the spot where he had encountered the beast. As he moved deeper into the shadowy glades, his eyes scanning the ground, he noticed something peculiar. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Steve followed the tracks, each footprint seeming to pull him forward into the enigma of the forest. But in that instant, the creature vanished, melting back into the shadows as quickly as it had appeared. Back home, he developed the film from his camera, each click of the developing tray echoing his racing heartbeat.